Hey everyone, how are we going? Good, good, good. I have stickers. I like giving out stickers. So who hasn't got one yet? You brought more, right?
I do not.
Whoever doesn't get a sticker, it's Matt's fault. And one, fight for it. Come on, Matt. Why didn't you bring any? There are, if you didn't get stickers or people in the interwebs, if you want stickers, the best place to get them is actually at InfoSec conferences. So we'll be at KaiCon, KaiCon, if that goes ahead. We'll probably be at, we'll be at Sec Talks. Yeah, we'll be at Sec Talks in a couple of weeks. So come to that. I'll bring more stickers. All right. What are we all here for? So I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to social engineer your way into your first InfoSec job. But, of course, there's a disclaimer to that. Don't lie on your CVs or your interviews. Social engineering is more than just about deception and lying. If you want to get hired, you're going to use some social engineering skills. So they do translate over. Like I said, it doesn't always have to be about tricking people. If you lie in your CV or your interview, chances are you're probably going to be just caught out in the first couple of weeks. It's not fun for anyone. However, we're going to talk about some of those skills and how to use them for good to get your first job. So firstly, the obligatory who am I? My name's Alexei Dudkin. You can find me online as Skorov or Skorov8 on Twitter. I'm offensive director at Volkis, which basically means I run a bunch of our offensive security style services, including pen testing, red team, social engineering, so phishing, phone calls. We do physical intrusions, we break into buildings and stuff like that. And we perform, I think I said, a bunch of red teams as well. So pretty much as close to a real world hack as you're gonna get. Been doing this hacking thing for probably about 10 plus years, more like 11, 12. Matt's been doing it for longer. And generally I like to code, I like to mod my car, I like to climb things, and I like dogs. Here's Volk. Yes, the company was named after him. It does. It means wolf in Russian. Well done. So, why social engineering? What specific skills can we take from social engineering to be able to use in an interview or actually getting to an interview? Well, it takes a lot of research and forethought. You're not going to be able to trick people unless you know that person. You're not going to be able to, social engineer them unless you know that person. You're not going to be able to achieve what you want unless you really know what your goal is and what the other person's goal is. So we're going to use a lot of this research skill and a bit of OSINT to get our first interview, actually. The approach that you take is very targeted. The best social engineering exploits, let's say we're attacking, right? The best attacks are against very, very targeted individuals. So yes, you can kind of spray and pray your CVs everywhere. Probably a pretty low chance of success. However, if you're a bit more targeted, then things are much more likely to succeed. And social engineering forces us to think in specifics rather than in generics. Again, this is about tailoring your CV or your resume to specific targets and really standing out from everyone else. So we'll kind of touch along these lines throughout the presentation. Absolutely interrupt me if you have questions. I don't want to just do death by slides. If you have questions, if you have stories to share, please interrupt me. I want this to be more of a workshop, like, hey, what should I do in this scenario? Oh, that's interesting. Like, can you elaborate on that? Just yell out, interrupt me. So kind of why am I giving this talk in the first place? Well, this is kind of the reality if you do want a job in InfoSec, this is kind of what you're up against. Every time we put forward a new role in Volkis, we get about 60 resumes, 60 CVs for an entry-level role, right? For people that haven't done any professional InfoSec work before, 60. Out of those, 30 are good. More than likely, I could probably hire any one of those 30. That's quite a large number. 10 are exceptional, which means it's really hard for us to choose between those 10. This is where you want to aim. You want to be in that exceptional category. From there, it's a numbers game. It's cool. I'm one of those 10. I need to do this 10 times, and probably I'll get my first role. It is incredibly competitive. Very, very, very competitive. The flip side to that is, and this is kind of the weird part, is that once you get a years of experience, a lot of doors start opening up. All these companies want people with at least 1 year of experience. Don't ask me why. Sometimes it's easy to just hire someone and train them for a year, but this seems to be what's happening. So by getting that 1 year of experience in a professional setting, you set yourself up really, really well. And doors open up. You get to actually almost choose where you want to work after that, which is a really good position to be in. Once you've sort of gotten in, you've got the power in terms of employment. InfoSec's really weird like that. It's one of the only fields where employees, staff sort of have the power over the employer in what they want, in setting salary, setting expectations, work from home, work from the beach, work from the pub, right, wherever. So that's kind of my goal here, is to get you all to a place where you've got 1 year plus of experience. And this is how we're going to do it. So step one is obviously get an interview. That's obviously the first thing we need to do. We're going to talk about what employers want to see even before your first interview. We're going to talk about the overall look and feel of your CV and your resume and just you as a person. We're going to talk about, in a lot of detail, we're going to talk about CVs and resumes, because that's really what the employer sees before they get to talk to you. We're going to go through a bunch of examples on CVs as well. So our main focus today is going to be on step one. Number two, show who you are and that you know your shit. Once you've gotten an interview, that's what you need to do. So the CV has done its job. If you've gotten your first interview, you'll hear me say that again. But once you've gotten that interview, then basically you need to prove that you've got the skills, the capability, you fit in well with the team. We'll get into detail. And then once you've gotten the job, let's say you did well, they hire you. For that first year, just learn everything. Dive in, learn as much as you can, ask for things, ask to get put on more things, do as many pen tests or incident responses or whatever field of InfoSec you want to get in. Just do as many as you can. Do as much hacking, do as much consulting. So try and get face-to-face with clients, figure out what they need, get that experience. It's invaluable. Get as much experience in reporting as well. It's obviously fun to hack into companies. The flip side of that is, yes, you do need to write reports. It can be easier with certain tools. I'll let Matt talk about that if he wants. But you do need to learn a good reporting style. And again, take that first year as the opportunity to make mistakes, learn, keep doing it over and over and over again. All right. So this is the bulk of today's workshop, right? CVs and resumes. What do we need to put in them? How do they need to look like? We're going to basically talk a lot about this. So what do employers actually want to see? And yeah, it's kind of like a mind reading game at this point, but the employers just want to see a resume that looks exactly the way they want, with exactly the right words and exactly the right skills. And basically, a lot of people look for unicorns, right? And it's not always going to be like that. But our job as people who want to get in the door and want to get our first interview, we want to be as close to that as possible. So what does that look like? I've kind of broken it up here. Our specialty is the offensive security side. So I can talk in a lot of detail about that. So these are literally the 4 things that I look for when I'm looking at a CV for an entry-level role. 1, very simple. Has the person mentioned pen testing or hacking or anything similar anywhere in the CV? Really, really basic. You'd be surprised how many people don't do it. Has the person hacked something in the past? Just anything. Have they tried to break into a system? Have they tried to hack something before? CTFs are fine. I don't need these people to be the world's best hacker. I just need them to have tried and liked it. People do sort of, I have spoken to people that say, yeah, I don't want to get into hacking. I want to be able to break into offices, break into companies. It's so cool. They've obviously seen, the movie Hackers, or they've seen Mr. Robot or something like that, and it's got this like cool, shiny feel to it. And I go, cool, take this CTF, go do it, come back, tell me what you think. And some people honestly have come back going, that was horrible. It took me like 3 hours to do the CTF. And I'm like, only 3 hours? But yeah, the point is, it's not for everyone, and that's okay. Third thing is, can the person learn quickly? Obviously, a lot of the skills are learned on the job. It's not something, they're pretty hard to learn ahead of time, but real world's very different to playing CTFs and stuff like that. So I need someone who can absorb this information really, really quickly. And 4th, is a person motivated? Are they passionate about what they're doing? It's easy to teach skill. It's hard to motivate people. So if they already have that, it's a massive bonus. This is basically telling me that they're in it for the long term, not because they're just trying it out for a couple of weeks. On the digital forensics and incident response side, so the blue team side, I spoke to a couple of colleagues that do this for a living and hire. They basically said a lot of the same things that I already mentioned. So the learning and the motivation obviously helps a lot. But experience in IT admin, networking, some kind of hands-on background is kind of an essential for even an entry-level role. So it's quite hard, from what they tell me, to go straight into this field. Not impossible, but typically they're looking for some hands-on experience in an IT field. And obviously someone who shows persistence and can troubleshoot. That's basically what a blue team does. They're figuring out what the hell happened, how do we fix this, what do we need to do? So those are the main things. I've already said this, but the main goal of your CV is to get you an interview, full stop. If it's done that, your CV has done its job. Fantastic. So how do we do that? First thing I'm going to talk about is just a bunch of overall stuff. What do we want from the CV? And the first is a unique look and feel. It should not feel like 1,000 other CVs. If you're pulling from a template that looks like everyone else's, it probably needs to change. Like I said, I'm looking at 60 CVs for an entry-level role. I want one that stands out, that I'm going bang, bang, bang. That one looks cool. I want to be able to take that and read it. A lot of other employers are the same. Try and actually avoid sounding overly professional. It takes away from the emotional aspect, and it takes away from who you are as a person. And that's actually not what you want. We'll talk about that in a sec, but be you. Write the way you talk is probably my best advice here is, the reason for that is because you want the CV to be a small window into who you are as a person. When I'm reading pages and pages of CVs, I care a little bit about what skills you have, but I want to get to know you as a person a little bit. Obviously, I can't do that from just reading a CV, but it helps me have a distinct image of this person as a person rather than a piece of paper. I don't want to read through CVs and just go, oh, okay, this person equals this skill set. I want to read through a CV and say, yeah, this is what the person has been through. This is what their hopes are. This is what they want out of the role, and so on. So the first section that we want to see in a CV is a section about you. This is in quite a bit of detail doing what I just spoke about. It needs to show who you are. I want to get to know the person, not just the skills and career, right? This section needs to say, what are you going to provide in this new role, right? Because it's entry level, it's going to be hard to say, I'm going to be the world's best hacker, I'm going to be the world's best consultant right away, right? You can't say that. But if you have some auxiliary skills, like you've done graphic design, or you've done sysadmin before, or something like that, it's going to be massive. It's going to show the person who's reading that CV that, hey, it's not just training for the next 6 months. We can rely on this person to do some of the little stuff around the company while they're being trained on their main role, which is, I want to use hacking as an example for everything, like pen testing. And then what are you going to get out of the role? What would you like out of the role? And it's perfectly fine. In fact, I encourage you to write this in your CVs. You should be honest about what you're expecting out of the role that you're applying for. That can be, I am applying for this role to learn as much as I can about pen testing. I want to learn how companies think about security in the real world. These are perfectly fine things to say. And if you don't know the answer, it's okay to say that. You can say, I'm exploring InfoSec to see if, pen testing is for me. I want to give it a good go. I think it's going to be fun. Say that. All right. The second thing we want to do in a CV is essentially reflect the words and the feel of the role description itself. We want to show that we are going to fit in with the company and with the role. Again, I'm going to say, you don't need to lie here. You don't need to bend the truth. But if you can find some common ground with the role or with the employer or with the hiring manager, great. It's going to show who you are again. And it's going to show that you're not just willing to learn, you're not just willing to do the job, but you're actually going to be a really good fit for the company as a person. What you'll want to do is you'll want to do some OSINT. So you'll want to do some internet research about the company. Get a feel for their culture. Get a feel for their ideology. Do they have blog posts? What are the blog posts written like? Do they have some manuals, company manuals that they've published online? How are they written? Are they super corporate or are they more relaxed? What kind of stuff do they do? Follow their Instagram. Follow their Twitter. What was their last Christmas party like? Get a feel for the company. You can also go a step further and do this for the hiring manager. Don't go into the stalking territory. But again, this is about finding some common ground. If you've been, for example, if you've been to the same conference as the hiring manager, you can bring up, hey, I saw this talk at B-Sides 2020, right? Or something like that. Was it last year? Last year. And you can talk about that because odds are is that the other person was there as well. So you've got some common things to talk about in your interview. The next thing is use the same wording and phraseology in your CV as what you see in the job description. Don't be afraid to chop and change the words that you use to better match what they're expecting to see. It's not trickery. It's just, it shows that you've taken the time to understand the way the company words things and the way the company speaks, and you've taken the time to actually change your resume a little bit into the way that they want to see it. That's typically really, really welcomed when you're applying for a role. And lastly, Yeah, for bonus points, basically tweak your CV for every application that you do. It's a lot of effort. Obviously, it's more effort than just sending it to 20 roles, but the success rate's much higher. It's going to be pretty obvious to people that read these things that you've taken the time to change it for them specifically. Typically, people do appreciate that. Yep.
Are you going to talk about LinkedIn later?
About
LinkedIn for OSINT?
no.
Okay. So has anyone done? Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. So LinkedIn resource for OSINT on any company. So you look at LinkedIn, you can understand what technology they have because they've got a guy who's a specialist in that technology. Where they've been before, you can understand so much about a company just by looking on LinkedIn. And when you look on LinkedIn, where they've worked there before. So, for instance, I've like for one of the vendors, and he goes through and he understands everyone who has that piece of software that he sells or who they. Even if you just want to afternoon, just check out a company, see how much you can learn about that company, just for fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's good. For my first InfoSec role, funnily enough, Matt was my hiring manager. Yeah, I did research you, and I saw that you went to UNSW, and I'm like, yeah, I need to name drop that during my interview, and you'd worked with one of the lecturers, yeah, huh?
both of them.
Both of them, yeah. So it was, yeah, name drop to get your role if you have to.
Of course, I also asked his lecturers about him.
Oh shit.
They trashed him.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Sounds like Brendan. Cool. The last thing that we need in our CVs are things that I call provers. So provers, as you probably have guessed, are things that prove the things that you're saying in your CV to the employer. So these can be things like CTFs, code or tools that you've written, bonus points if they're security related. It could be community involvement. I've been to conferences. I attend these things, right? This is community involvement. I've written blog posts. I've done a bunch of personal projects that are security related. Even if they're not security related, if they prove that you're good at something, why not put it in? So even if it's just teaching computers to kids, right? It shows that you've got patience. It shows that you're willing to teach people, which is awesome. Any other initiatives? I've kind of given a bunch of examples, but the trick here is to be unique to you. Try and find something that you've done that is pretty much just yours. Don't get me wrong, it's a massive plus to put I've done CTFs in your CV. It's a bigger plus if you've put something unique that everyone else hasn't. With provers, we need to be specific. Don't just write, I worked at so-and-so company in so-and-so role. We need to give quite a lot of space to stuff that you're proud of, right? The stuff that you're actually proud of that you've done in the past will come out in your writing while you're writing the CV. People will read that and go, yeah, awesome. They've taken up a whole paragraph writing about this one thing, and because you're passionate about it, the person reading it will want to read it, which is what you want. Yeah, it can be like something like that. It can I mean, open source your code. If you've written code, that's an obvious prover, right? Put a link to your GitHub account or GitLab account or wherever you store your code. Mention your favorite talk at the last con. Don't just say, I went to this con and I liked it. Why did you like it? What parts did you like about it? Did you do anything afterwards? Did you, was it a new technique? Did you go back and recreate that technique? If you recreated the technique, it's massive, massive bonus points. Shows that you care, shows that you're willing to learn. Link to these achievements. Any other achievements that you've done, link to them. The employer doesn't want to have to do research on you. Like I said, they've got 60 CVs to look through. Make it easy. If it's just, yeah, cool, there's a link, I'm going to click on that, I'm going to read that. It's just easy, and it puts you above everyone else basically. So we don't want to do this. I did help desk support, full stop. That doesn't tell me anything. That doesn't tell me what you actually did in that role. I can guess, but something like this is better. I help people solve their IT problems, sometimes by resetting their passwords to a secure random one. Secure, it's important. Or sometimes stepping them through how to configure Outlook to work for them. Those are specific things, specific tasks that you've done as part of your help desk duty. I see that you've called them out. I've read that. Awesome. It shows me that, one, you're security conscious because you've reset the password to a secure one. And it shows me that you can explain technical concepts to non-technical people while helping them step through and set up their Outlook. Shows that you're helping them achieve what they want with your IT powers, right? Cool. I'm gonna pause here for a sec. Any questions so far? Anything you wanted to ask? We're gonna look at a couple of examples, but yeah. Yep.
When you think personalize your CV and make it unique, so you're flicking through tens and tens of CVs, and you want to see one that stands out, does that extend to the design, or mostly just the text of it? Because from people like the big four banks and stuff who have done other recruitments, be standard in your template, I guess so that bots can use it and stuff can read it. But does personalizing it extend to the design of the actual CV page itself, or more just the text?
No, the design as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a good point. You do have bots that sort of try and read your CVs. Not super common in InfoSec, just because, it's really hard to automate if a person's going to be a good fit or not. So typically, big companies like that in the InfoSec world will go through recruiters. That will be their bot, essentially. But sometimes you can just go straight to company. And most of the time it is a person looking at your CV. And if it's the same format, blank white page, bunch of text, not going to stand out. If it is colorful or unique or, I don't know, looks like a terminal, right? Then just instantly I'm like, that looks different. I naturally want to look at it. Yeah. Anyone else?
Just as a add to that, the last guy that we hired did his resume in LaTeX, and we're just going, oh, that's in LaTeX, that's interesting. I mean, some weird things happen.
We our reporting tool does LaTeX stuff, but I'm like, awesome. I can palm all the hard LaTeX stuff off to this guy. Yep.
What's LaTeX?
You don't want to know.
You don't want to know.
Spelled. It's a. How do I put this?
Okay,
It's a pain.
LaTeX is a typesetting language that you can use to make really, really nice looking documents. It's used all the time in scientific stuff. And so if you write a thesis on it, that's going to be in LaTeX. That's.
It's markup for people who. It's spelled LATEX, which is Sorry?
Some people call it latex.
Latex, LaTeX.
Do you recommend we have a website with a resume on there? like I never like I can't really fit everything on my resume, so I have like a detailed.
Help you define who you are, then yes, you should. If it's because you don't have enough space, you can still use your website as like, if you care, here's more info, and use it as a hack for, oh, well, I don't have enough space in my CV, so I'm going to write a whole website. Because you may as well put it in your CV. And we're going to talk about this, but don't have multi. Blog and you put that on your website and you go, here's a CTF that I've done, and here's a link to my website where I've written up step by step how I've done basically a report on that CTF. Absolutely link to that. Yeah. Yes.
How do you want to utilize your Volkis is sometimes you want
Yeah, it's a trade-off. Yeah. You gotta that fine line, how much of my personal life do I want to put on giant corporate social media platforms versus how bad do I want to get this job? Yeah, it's similar thing. Like you don't need to put your entire life story on LinkedIn. I certainly wouldn't. Yeah, look, use LinkedIn as a copy of your CV. Put heaps detailed stuff in your CV, as in like personal life stuff in your CV. But people look, if they search for you on LinkedIn, you're there, you're a real person. Test of those four things, they're going to look you to, they're going to look you to recruiters, basically. It's like, you passed the basis, now I want to look at what have you actually done, right? What have you done? Just finding proof of like, what company does that look like? Yeah. Do you have any other interactions with employees? Are you part of their sort of LinkedIn? I'm looking at, like GitHub stuff to find recruiters there. I've had people kind of say that, oh, I've done bug bounty programs. And I look for them on BugCrowd and HackerOne and Synapse, right? I look for their profile. It will be great if you can link to those, but if people don't, most people don't, I have to go search. So, yeah, to kind of answer your question, it's a balancing act between not being too visible online, which I totally understand, but also putting yourself out there a little bit so that you do get hired. Cool. Alrighty, let's go through some examples. So before this workshop, I asked a bunch of people to send through their CVs. I asked their permission if I can use them here. They both said yes. I have de-anonymized them. I have anonymized them so that to kind of hide who they are. But I went through these CVs in quite a lot of detail, and I was nitpicky, really, to try and find as many examples to talk about as possible. I've already been through these CVs with each person, so yeah, hopefully they won't mind. I will mention as well that I actually didn't ask them to redo their CV specifically for an InfoSec role. I just asked to send them as is. So I will touch on stuff like, this one, for example, doesn't have any mention of hacking. I will mention that just as an example, but I didn't ask them, I didn't give them the scenario that they should be doing that, essentially. So what do we think of this one? Looks nice. It's eye-catching, right? The design's a bit different, which is actually why I chose it. I had 5 blank pages, and this one had some color in it. So I went, cool, I want to choose this one. it is fairly generic. So this could be 100 people's CVs, right? Yes, it's got some detail about the person in particular, but it's the same. It doesn't tell me about who this person is. It doesn't paint me a picture of this person in my mind. It's just, this is what they've done. These are their skills. A bunch of claims, but only a few provers. So again, you know, they show that they've written all this code, but I don't know if they actually have. How can I verify that? Some of the specifics. They did have a link to their GitHub profile at the top right there. However, not all of these projects were there. And I was, you know, made me think, why are only half of these projects on GitHub? Where are the rest? If you can open source them, why not? Do it. Even if it's just like projects for uni, it's all relevant. It shows that you've done this before, right? You're not just claiming to have. Second part there is, this one was funny. So there's this mention of bread talk there. Presented my personal bread talk to 30 attendees. And at first I was like, it'd be great if you could explain what a bread talk is, but then the flip side to that was, no, I want to know what a bread talk is. So I want to speak to this person and ask them. And it's a neat little trick to sort of go, okay, well, I'm not going to give you all the info, so you have to talk to me if you want the info. So again, you don't want to always do this, but to throw in one or two of these things, yeah, absolutely is fine. Then the bottom half, again, here's an example of just not enough detail. Created a web app for my HSC. What does the web app do? Wordy website. Okay, cool name, but I want to know what it does. What problems did you have to solve while building this application? Here, they've said, I decided to test my skills, which is awesome. I really like that. But how did it go? What was the end result? Did it not work out? Did you learn something? Did it go well? This would have told me a lot about how you learn and what you take away from things that potentially might not have worked, which is fine. So this part was really good. Lots of learning on the job and supporting schools with any technical issues that arise. I do wish it was a little bit more detailed, but it does show me that this person can explain technical stuff to non-technical people. So I really like this. All this bottom stuff was awesome as well. It shows a massive amount of community involvement. Typically, people that don't really care or just treat this as a job and nothing else would go out of their way to do this much community involvement. So it shows me that they're interested in this long term and that, yeah, they're passionate about it, which is really good. All right, second CV. Similar to the first, this one did not stand out very much at all. It was the same structure as 1,000 other CVs. Career objectives, skills, education, career summary, other achievements, referees, right? 1,000 other CVs have this. This could be a template. Something needs to stand out here for me to just look at it straight away. Even something simple as, you know, making part of this bigger, like maybe even making the skills and attributes part bigger, would just draw my eye to there, right? However, the good part is there's multiple mentions of CTFs. It shows me that this person has done hacking before, more than once. More than once means, yeah, they're probably quite motivated and they want to do more of this. So in detail, we can go, I did really like this first part, but it didn't tell me much about the person themselves. So it was kind of on the edge of getting there, but I wanted to know a lot more specifics about this person. Yeah, like for example, it said that these are career objectives, but if you read this, there's no mention of any objectives or goals or what they want from their career. It's just, this is what they've done in the past. I feel like this was just this, done CTFs to solve industrial problems. I feel like this was just an attempt at being overly professional. How does doing CTFs solve industrial problems? If that is actually the case, it needs to be mentioned in here somewhere. Otherwise, no, just I did CTFs to learn. I did CTFs to have fun. That's more than enough. So the rest here is quite good info. It shows that this person's passionate. It just isn't structured very well in terms of grammar. It's quite hard to read. So I had to read through this like 2 or 3 times to actually understand what they're saying. Really simple fix, but just make sure that it's structured well and easy to read. Finally here, skills and attributes. Great section. I like that it's sort of spread out, has these sort of key skills, right? However, again, nothing about hacking or hacking web apps or infrastructure, which is something that they could have written. They've done CTFs. They've hacked infrastructure before. They've probably hacked web apps before. They mentioned that they've done risk assessments in the big career section above, but not here. I have to go and read that entire block to figure out that they've done risk assessments. Why not just save the person that's looking at the CV and say, cool, I've done risk assessments. It should be in the skills section. Bottom part, so both of these both of this employment history section, kind of the same issue, is that it doesn't tell me what they did day to day. It's all just fairly generic, generic write-ups, delegated tasks to other co-workers. What tasks? What co-workers? Why did you delegate? These are the things that I'm thinking of. Examples are great. I love examples of specific tasks that one's done, and even better if it's something that this person's proud of. So during your employment, wherever you've worked, what's something that you've done that you're really proud of, that you go, yep, that was awesome. I'm really glad I pushed myself to do that. That's the kind of stuff that should go in your CV. That's the kind of stuff that you want your potential employer to see. Love the mention of B-sides. Awesome. Again, shows community involvement. Could probably take away some room from the previous section and give a bit more room to this InfoSec specific part. Went to B-sides Canberra. Well, what did you do, right? What did you do there? What talks did you go to? Why did you go to those? Why are you interested in it? Awesome. Again, love the CTF mention, but no prover. 7-way tie, ranked first. Cool. Is there any write-up? Is there a link I can go to sort of show that you've actually done this? Same thing here. A talk on open source intelligence. Open source intelligence is a huge topic. What specifics did you talk about? Why did you give the talk? Is there a link to a corresponding blog post? Was it recorded? That'd be awesome. Cool. Any questions about CVs?
The biggest thing, I know this suggestion is a bit scary because you are putting yourself out there more than normal when you're applying for a job. But it is a huge thing to have not be friends with your CV. And I've done that for my friends as well. One really stuck out. This competent person I've known over next, and she sent me a CV, and I looked at it and immediately went, "This just isn't you." Yeah. Because she wasn't a very good person about talking about, and most people aren't. Most people don't talk about themselves very well at all. But sometimes when you see yourself reflected through the eyes of someone who knows you well, they can actually talk about you better than you can talk about yourself. And they can bring up things that you wouldn't have thought to mention in your CV. And they can tell you also some things that I told her were stuff that a hiring manager probably wouldn't care about her. Stuff that doesn't really matter for the jobs that she was applying for. And they can also bring those things up. And so, yeah, it might be a bit of a someone who knows you well and getting them to give great things to do.
Yeah, that literally happened with one of these two, with the person who sent me the first example, is that we got to talking and just got talking about their experience, what they've done, stuff that they like to do in their spare time. And I think I said this like 10 times to them, but like I went, this should be in your CV. This shows enthusiasm. This shows hacking, not computer hacking, but it shows the mindset of a hacker. This should 100% be in your CV. So yeah, it's a really good point. If you can send it to your mates, get them to look over it, that's awesome. Even if you know someone in the industry that already works in the industry that might have a bit of experience, ask them to look over your CV. This is another reason why it's really, really important to go to conferences and meet people and, build some rapport, make some friendships so that you can lean on them and say, hey, do you mind actually having a look at my CV? Does this line up with what you know about me? Yeah. All right. So hopefully your CV is awesome and it got you an interview. What do we want to do in an interview? This is your chance to essentially show who you are and what you can do. You've got a limited amount of time, a limited amount of space in a CV to talk about yourself. So the interview is your opportunity to expand a lot on everything that you've talked about in your CV, plus maybe some things that you haven't. Same advice as the CV, do not be overly professional, just be you. If you treat an interview as simply a conversation rather than a test, you'll probably be less nervous, you'll probably be more candid, and most importantly, the person that you're talking to will see more of who you actually are. Absolutely answer the questions that they ask, but use the opportunity to offer up new information that's relevant. The interviewer doesn't know you that well. They know you because they've looked at your CV, like that's it. So I'm certain that there's a bunch of stuff that's really relevant to the role, relevant to you, that you haven't put in your CV. And if you can come up with an opportunity to talk about those things, take that opportunity. Interviews shouldn't be question, answer. It's an hour or however long, for you to present as much about yourself as you can. It doesn't have to be just answering the question straight up. It's okay to be proud of your achievements and it's okay to brag about them, right? It's quite unnatural for a lot of people. I know it's quite unnatural for me to be that way, but your job here is to get the job, right? So if you need to just push through that and just do it for a little bit, absolutely do that. However, obviously be humble about it. Don't go into the arrogant territory. That's not where you want to be. But just, say, this is something awesome I did. I am quite proud of it. I put a lot of effort into it. It's very much okay to say. Have questions that you want to ask of the interviewer as well. Remember, this is a conversation, so you are allowed and encouraged to ask the other person questions as well. For example, what would my first few weeks in the role look like? I'm interested in learning X. Is that something you do? What's the team like? Can I meet the team? I saw something when looking at your company. What's that all about? What are the next steps? What should I learn in the meantime? Is there something I should learn? Is there something I'm deficient at during this interview that you think I should learn more about? All of these questions show engagement, show interest, especially the question about something you saw at the company. It shows that you've gone to quite a bit of effort to learn about this company already, like even before you're hired. It's a massive step forward. So kind of thought about what types of interviews you're likely to encounter. And I came up with really four kind of generic-ish interview styles that I've seen people use. And I've asked a bunch of people about this. The first one's really simple. It's the one that most people expect. Just question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, right? Do your best, but again, give information where relevant. The second one, my personal favorite, is scenario-based. So instead of having sort of set questions and set answers that are right or wrong, a scenario-based interview will throw you into a certain scenario and ask you what you would do. Very generic questions that are aimed at understanding your thought process more than testing your memory. This is what we do at Volkis. I think it works really well, and specifically what we do is we kind of create a write your own adventure or choose your own adventure style interview where we might throw you into a scenario. Hey, you've just rocked up, you're doing an internal penetration test. You've plugged into the network, what's the first thing you do? And based off the answers that people give, I'm not looking for a right or wrong answer. At this stage, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just stuff that you're trying. Based off those answers, I might choose one and go, okay, cool, let's go with that one. You've done that. Here are the results that you receive. What would you do next? And so we go through the scenario step by step, really to try and see that hacker mindset, that thinking outside the box mindset that you need while doing the role. Third one is CTF based. So they will tell you, here's a CTF, you've got 3 days to do it, good luck. They're okay. They're not great at showing real world results. It might be bad luck that you just get topics or CTFs that aren't aligned with your skills right now. Kind of sucks. And then the last one is report based. So you'll get given a report and they'll say, hey, QA this report for mistakes. Those are sort of what to expect. All right, lastly, a couple of FAQs. How long should my CV be? 1 to 2 pages max. Typically, people just won't spend the time reading longer than that. People, again, they've got 60 plus CVs to go through. They want something succinct. They want to be able to see that you either know your shit or you don't know your shit really, really quickly. In fact, most of the time, if it's longer, they just won't bother reading past the second page. Should I also write a cover letter? This is a bit 50-50. So some people say yes, some people say no. I will say if you do choose to do a cover letter, it should be like 90% written for the specific role that you're going for. If you're just gonna sort of send the same cover letter into every role, don't bother. Summarize it into your CV. It is your chance to be a bit more narrative though. So that section about who you are, what you want, and what you're going to give to the company, you can use the cover letter as a bit to give you a bit more room to basically write about that in a bit more detail. I like them. I know other employees don't like them, so do whatever feels right for you.
For that, my advice is it's your ability to be more targeted at the company. So with the CV, it's slightly a bit weird if you start talking about the company you're applying to inside CV. But if there's something specific about the company that you like, that you think is interesting or whatnot, you can actually throw it out your cover letter, and it's a really good place to raise that kind of stuff.
When should I bring up salary? This is one I get a lot. Basically, whenever you feel comfortable doing so, really, there's no right or wrong place to do it. I probably wouldn't start negotiating right off the bat. Generally, it's okay to get a ballpark figure right off at the start, right? So you should, I think it's okay to get a gauge of, well, what's the range here? Do I need to put in heaps of effort because the salary range is high, plus the company is awesome, plus the people are awesome, plus they got a good learning, a good education program? Or is it just, a bit of a crappy company, crappy salary, I'm not going to put too much effort into it. So it's okay to get that initial reaction. And then get into specifics once you feel like you've really presented all of yourself. So after the interviews, after you feel like the interviewer has gotten to know you quite well, that's a good chance to bring it up and say, cool, you know me, let's talk about salary. And that's perfectly fine. Should I do an unpaid internship? This one really depends on your individual circumstances. So the experience will be good, not at the detriment of your livelihood if you need the paycheck, basically. If you do take one, however, know that you shouldn't be asked to do anything that adds value to the company. If you're adding value to the company in any way, you must be paid by law. We cannot have unpaid internships where you're adding value in Australia. That's just not a thing. If you do find yourself in that situation where you feel like you're being exploited, you're doing a bunch of work that no one else is doing in the company, and the company is profiting or getting advantage from the stuff that you're doing, and you're still not getting paid, get out. Just get out of that exploitative situation. It's not going to be good for you long term. Another common one is, I don't have everything a role is looking for. Should I still apply? Yeah, you should absolutely still apply. The list of skills that you see in role description, position descriptions, are wish lists. Even if they say must have, I don't care. It's a wish list. Don't lie and pretend you don't have it, but if you can sort of kind of almost get there, absolutely do. Like, you'll see companies going, must have OSCP. No. It's okay if you don't have it. You can still apply. You can say that I want to get my OSCP very soon, right? It's also not your job to block yourself. So don't put up roadblocks for yourself. There are already enough roadblocks without you putting up new ones for yourself. It's up to the employer at worst to say no. Worst case scenario, they go no, nothing happens. Okay, you move on, you apply again. Best case scenario, if you don't get the job, you get some experience in interviews. You learn about different things that people ask, maybe something else that you need to learn that you haven't thought of yet. Just realized I missed one. The last one is, do I need a cert to get into InfoSec? No, I don't. No, you don't. Sorry. They definitely don't hurt. It's one prover, basically. So by getting a cert, it shows me that you've done that course, and you probably know the contents of that course. It's a prover. It doesn't guarantee anything. We always say that, yeah, it's good. If you have them, it's good. If you don't, you're not going to be discounted. Good companies will see them for what they are, is that provers. Bad companies will insist you have them. At the end of the day, if getting certs means you feel like you're more likely to get hired, get the cert, right? Remember what your goal is, 1 year of experience. That's what we're going for here. Cool.
Also, and use that with a little bit of caution as well, because people, and if it's been a good company, they know what's in the cert, they know what's in that course, and they'll ask you questions about it. How much have you learned? So OSCP is an example, this buffer and post-run plastic ones. People ask you about that. There's now Active Directory stuff in there. People ask you about that.
Basically, I ask a simple question. If you've said you've got the cert, I probably know what's in that cert. I'm going to go, oh, I don't need to ask this person simple questions. I'm going to go straight for questions or scenarios that they would have touched on in the course. So that's pretty much it. Are there any other questions about anything really we talked about today? Anything you wanted to workshop with me? Anything you wanted to ask about our experience, what we look for, what we do? Yeah, just anything really.
I got a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned bring up questions in an interview before. What are some good What are some examples of good questions and not so good questions? Or ways to ask?
Why are you so shit? One of the things to keep in mind, firstly, the interviewer a lot more than you have, and so a lot of the things that might be a bit embarrassing or a bit awkward for you as dozens of times at least, I'm sure. They are fine with that question. The interviewers are fine with a lot of stuff because they've already discussed it before. They are fine with talking about what the company does. And a lot of things that you might feel are a little bit out of bounds probably aren't, because InfoSec people are absolute gossips, and they will talk about random stuff. So you can ask them about even things, hey, example of stuff that you've hacked. They might not use company names, but they'll tell you.
Yeah.
You can ask things like that. What for the company? About the company. What do you like about it?
I think the best questions are the ones that you genuinely want to know about, right? Like, if you found a good company and you really want to work there, chances are, like I said, if you've done any of this, you've done a bit of research about the company, you've read some of their blog posts, some of their work, maybe even a sample report. Like, if you see something really specific in one blog post, like that you want to know the answer to, ask about it. Yeah, I think those are the best questions. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's a summarized version, and then you can repeat those things in your cover. So basically, it's the reason I say that is because, like I said, some employers just won't read your cover. Right? They just don't want to for some reason. That way, you still have that important part summarized, but if they do want to get more detail about that section, nope. All right. Awesome. Was this useful? 21?
Yes.
Yes.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Point out we have our current guy as well.
On our Volkis handbook, handbook.volkis.com.au/something/onboarding hiring guideline. It's in there. Search on the website. Just basically, like, it's a whole page that's publicly available that we go, this is our interview process. So yeah, you can use that as like one example of what to expect in an interview process. Not everyone does it like us, but yeah, at least it gives you an example. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, everyone.